I had the same problem with the 2008 Gixxer 1000 that I rented. It was tricky to get the starter to work. I kept going through the routine and eventually kicked over. But the funny thing is you'd have all the switches and the key and everything in place and hit the starter and nothing would happen. And that happened 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row, and then suddenly it would start up.
Yeah, this thing compares to the one I rented. Much easier clutch action than that fucking GSX-R though, buddy. Alrighty.
More aggressive riders naturally percolate to the front of the line. This is a problem if the lead rider is hyper-aggressive. Because the first few riders in the group will take off like rockets and the line will stretch out forever. But that's okay. It gives people plenty of time and space to take the ride at their own pace.
Are we doubling up here or single?
If you want a nice sedate ride, slip to the back of the line when you start out. Just go slow enough and the fastest riders will pass you, ignoring the instruction they're given at front not to pass riders in line.
Double? Right here? We 2 or 1?
This test with me right behind the lead rider sets up a nice comparison, leader bike versus GT Tour. Of course, the lead rider here has 4 days, actually 5 days worth of experience on the route because they pre-ride the route before the first day. If they want to go really fast, there's no way I'm keeping up with them, even on a leader bike. If the pace riders want to go really fast, they will go really fast very easily on just about every bike they have in the demo. In Daytona, at Daytona for Bike Week, I was flat out humbled by some girl on a Yamaha Cruiser while following her on an R6. But at least I was on the same page with her, generally speaking. I was at least within a few dozen bike lengths of her. Likewise, I got humbled once by a guy on a cruiser leading us while I was riding a Busa. We were seriously flying the roads around Daytona Speedway. I've generally found that when the pace riders ride cruisers or sport bikes or Busas or whatever, they're always either okay or fast, or in some cases, very fast. And often when they ride cruisers, they don't even bother to lean out. They just know just how fast they can go, and they're always going to go faster than me, and even sometimes faster than just about anybody else who's on the demo. Although you always are going to have some crazy fools that just ride like nuts during the demo and will keep up with someone on a road that they've never ridden before, on a bike that's brand new to them, or maybe not so well known. So here, the riders usually stop to make sure that the road is clear before they come out, and also to make sure that the group has formed up. And you can see this guy rolls right on through the entrance here and rolls right onto the road. And I knew at that point this was going to be a fast ride. See, the problem is that the riders know these routes really well. They have to pre-ride the route. They have to set up all the bikes, make sure they're all in good condition. They get there a day early, at least, and they come in and they ride the route. So by the time you've gotten there on, I got there on the 4th day of Americade on Saturday. They've been riding the route all week long, you know, between 9 and, I guess, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so say 6 times a day for 4 days. You know, that's quite a lot of experience riding that route on all these bikes. So some of them, you know, they're just like, okay, let's get this over with. Let's go around and be done with it, especially if they're running a little bit behind schedule. They're supposed to ride in a half an hour or a quarter hour or whatever. They're just going to take off. And, of course, there's a little bit of an incentive for them to do that because they're trying to sell, you know, expensive sport bikes. And the basic issue is they want to give people a chance to really get out and ride the hell out of the bikes, to see what the bikes are really capable of. So they're not going to go too slow. Rarely, I think one demo I've had a rider go slow, okay? Usually they go quickly, and sometimes they just haul ass. This guy hauled ass.
All right, good.
So by now, I'd experienced backfiring during engine braking phenomenon that with the 2013 Gixxer and its early models that I've read about on the internet. This is the first time it's happened to me, and I remember the various engine modes from my rental, the 2008 Gixxer. So I flipped the throttle off idle, trying to sort that out. It's pretty easy to tell right off idle. In A mode, the response is good, and then B and C, it begins to become progressively choppy. Later, I'd find out that the 2013 bike starts in A mode each time, which was good because I had no idea how to set it on this bike. the switches were completely different. But you're not going to find true engine adjustability or suspension or TC adjustability from the seat on this bike. It just isn't there. The bike doesn't even have TC, and I'm not sure it has ABS. I don't think it does. I know the Busa does, and at least for 2013. And the Gixxer 1000 is notorious for spinning riders off and who get too throttle happy, especially on cold tires or at high lean angles. The tires on this bike are really thick and meaty, and they take a little while to heat up. And if you're not careful, and you ride this bike like it's a 300, it'll throw you off it in a second. So I was extremely careful not to get into a situation where I was leaned over and had whacked over the throttle. I was very cautious with the bike, only rolling up with the throttle when I was straight up and the bike was straight. Okay, so clearly, as you just witnessed, the bike has plenty of acceleration. The guy really outran me on the Busa. I think more because he knew how fast he wanted to go and went ahead and did it, versus I'm trying to follow him. You know, I don't really know what the hell he's getting ready to do, and he just goes. I mean, I knew he was going to go fast, but I didn't know he was going to go that fast, and he just like bolted coming off that on-ramp. Before then, I think I had a moment there at the first sign turning onto the road that goes up to the highway where I almost dumped the bike to the inside of the turn. It handles so much faster than the 14R that I had to catch myself from overturning the bike. So I think it handles, the 14R handles okay, in terms of its steering response and handling response. The Gixxer 1000 is very fast in the 600 range, I would say. It's a joy to handle. Joy to ride at low speeds because it handles really fast. Where it runs into a little trouble is for street riding. You have, I should say, it handles really fast and it has a ton of power. Where it runs into problems is on street riding at high speeds, like highway speeds on highways, normal sedate highway riding, because it's really a track bike. The springs are a little bit too hard. You're going to get a stiff ride. It's not unstable-ish, of a problem, but it's still a little bit hard. But it is stable. You can ride in that right-hand rut there without a problem, whereas the Busa can only do that if it's smooth. Any types of bumps or a really steep rut there will give the Busa problems. Didn't give the 14R problems, and it wouldn't give the 6R problems either. The problem is that those sport bikes are too quick handling, really, I think, for the street. You have decent brakes on the Gixxer 1000, not overpowering, not two-finger like the 6R, but still good. And on the back road, it's okay because I think you get more input from the road, so you don't really notice the lack of stability as much as you would on a highway where you're going straight. I think it's really optimal for back roads, low-speed riding on the street than it is for highway riding. It's not quite stable enough to really enjoy riding it on the highway. Although maybe 5,000 miles from now, I might say it's not a problem because I've adjusted to it. Let's put it that way. I would say that on the highway, it just needs to be toned down a little bit. Let's put it that way. I'd say overall, it probably has about 95% of the power I'd want in a bike compared to the ZX-R14, which probably has about 110% of the power. So my ideal power bike-wise would be somewhere in between those two bikes. This bike has significantly more power than a 600, yet I wouldn't say it brutally overpowers a 600. I mean, the big leap would be from a 600 to the 14R. The Gixxer is a little bit stronger than, say, a 750, but it's not like, night and day. This is faster than a 600, but not night and day faster. The big difference is it has much more power down low, whereas the 600, like the GSX-R, doesn't really bring any power to the table until you get like maybe 7,000, 8,000 RPM. So it has an additional let's say, dimension of power that a 600 sport bike does not have. Although the GSX-R, the Yamaha FJ6R is not bad in terms of low-end power, low and mid-range, and I don't think that the GSX-R is so stupendous in terms of high-end power that it just flat out destroys an FJ6R. So I don't think the GSX-R is really a problem. I don't think it's any more unstable than the GSX-R 1000 on the highway. I think that it's a happy bike to ride for most riding, and the ZX-14R is maybe a little overkill for some riding. If you are going to open your throttle a lot, you're going to have trouble with the 14R. If you're moderate with the throttle, it's going to be nice. I don't think the differences between these bikes was really dramatic. We're talking about shades of gray, and the only thing I really can say is that I can think of what I would like to do with the 6R, I can think of what I'd like to do with the 14R, and I can think of what I'd like to do with the GSX-R 1000. I like to give it, the GSX-R 1000, softer springs, and I wouldn't mind it if it was a little heavier and it handled a little bit slower. And other than that, it was a great bike. I enjoyed riding it, and I can certainly see how the lighter response compared to, say, a bike like the Busa or the 14R would be a joy to have at low speeds, middling speeds on anything other than a long cruise where you're just staring at mile after mile of the highway. The problem is that that's how you cover a lot of distance, whether it's in a car or a bike. You don't get very far on the road by traveling twisty back roads, doing 65 miles an hour. You have to get on the highway and you have to do 65, 75, for hours. For hours to really get in. Okay? You have more power at lower RPMs. The big difference is that when you're coming out of a turn and you get on the throttle, because you have more power, the bike accelerates more and the bike shifts its weight off the front wheel more. That widens your turn. So if you really want to talk about what the most significant feature is that acceleration means that your turns are going to be wider if you try to ride them the same way. You're going to hit higher terminal speeds, so you're going to hit, when you get to a braking point, you're going to be going much faster, so you're going to need to brake earlier. So it cycles around. The big issue is that the sheer fact that you have more power, even if the bike weighs 100 pounds more, is that everything, you have less to work with in terms of space. And again, the GSX-R 1000 has the handling of a 600, but the power of a liter bike. It's got a great engine, it has great throttle response, and it accelerates very well, and it will turn in very quickly. As long as you don't get on the gas, it'll handle just like your 600. It's a great handling bike. It will get you into trouble at high speed if you try to get on the throttle and exploit that additional power at the wrong time when it's leaned over. Then you're going to run into some serious trouble.